Well, hello and welcome to another week's analysis behind the news. It seems that big government's favorite fight is once again in the news, that of gun control. Multiple news outlets report that a self-described ISIS supporter and radical Islamic terrorist shot and killed 50 unarmed people in an Orlando gay club and wounding many others. In Florida, citizens are not allowed to carry firearms in places that serve alcohol. Thus, a gun-free zone is created in establishments all across the state, making all those who frequent these places possible victims if a bad guy with a gun decides to start shooting. Reports indicate that the SWAT police entered 3 hours after the terrorists began shooting, eventually dying in a gun battle with police. That seems a bit ironic, as many SWAT teams have no trouble going in aggressively during no-knock raids that assume someone may be armed. But in this instance, when someone is actually armed and is shooting, they pull back and go into hostage mode. I must be missing something here. Of course, the FBI is investigating, and we can only hope that the same agents investigating Hillary Clinton aren't the same ones investigating the shooter. Oh, but wait, it gets even better. The FBI actually interviewed him on at least 3 separate occasions, and they let him go, despite his connections with at least one other confirmed terrorist. He was under scrutiny, but not observation. We haven't seen too many questioning if he was groomed by the FBI, as he was certainly not too far away. You see, he was a licensed security officer working for G4S Security Solutions. G4S is a private security firm with 600,000 employees worldwide. According to Wikipedia, take this with a grain of salt, it was founded by former FBI agents. G4S has provided security for a number of clients, especially the U.S. government, since the mid-1960s. Currently, it is a major contractor for the Department of Homeland Security, which values its contract at more than $230 million. Now let this next one sink in. They provide security for about 90% of U.S. nuclear facilities. According to Judicial Watch, G4S transports hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens within the U.S. and from the U.S.-Mexican border to interior American cities. No word yet on what all the shooter's job responsibilities were beyond that of a local transport guard. Now, you've probably heard a number of pro-gun adages like, "I carry a gun because a police officer is too heavy," or "I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6," or a more fitting one in this case, "When seconds count, police are minutes away." This horrific example should send the Florida State Legislature into emergency session to get rid of all gun-free zones. But will they? Another item of Second Amendment news occurred last week, this time in San Francisco. Fox News reported federal appeals court ruled that you and I do not have a Second Amendment right to carry concealed weapons in public. For those of you who follow this subject, you'll not be surprised to find out that this was from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. They just love to twist the law to find new interpretation. Fox News continues. An 11-judge panel upheld a state law requiring applicants to show good cause, such as fear of personal safety, to carry a concealed firearm. The judges further definitively dismissed the argument that a right to carry a concealed weapon was contained in the Second Amendment. Well, let's just read the Second Amendment to find out what it does say. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. To understand this in its entirety, you need to break it down. The first 13 words, or the introductory clause, has been referred to as its preamble. It states, a well-regulated militia. And now recall who the militia was back then. It was every able-bodied person of about 18 years of age. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Well, who's the state? The state is we the people, you and I. A well-regulated militia is one that understands their responsibility to keep their state free, one that is not beholden to the federal government. We are to be a check in the fragile balance of power that exists in the republic. The founders knew the importance of arms and well-trained citizens after having just fought a war for independence. This is why they were quite clear in the rest of the Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed appears to be a rather easy phrase to decipher, don't you think? It doesn't say what type of arms, nor does it say how those arms were to be carried. It says nothing about getting a permit or even having to have a reason for carrying a gun. According to the Constitution, we can carry anything at any time in any way we so choose. Here's another section of the Constitution that the judges may want to read. Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in one such inferior courts, and in such inferior courts, as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall, at stated times, receive for their services a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Did you catch that line about good behavior? Would disobeying the Constitution demonstrate good behavior? Absolutely not. And this is why the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals needs to have its house cleaned of those judges who cannot abide by the Constitution. Congress created it, and Congress should definitely fix it. If gun control worked to keep people safe, then places that have severely restricted guns, like Chicago and New York, should be a utopia of safety, and gun-free zones would be the safest places in the country. This is definitely not the case, as more and more are unfortunately finding out. And in today's world where danger seems to lurk where no one least expects it, carrying concealed can certainly have its advantages. A disarmed populace is not safe, but it is easier to control. Just look at the nearly 200 million dead who were killed by their own governments in the 20th century, mostly in communist countries. Gun control is just that. It's about control. Controlling inanimate objects that can be the difference between life and death, and between liberty and tyranny. Which will it be for you? Until next week, we'll see you then.